Procedures to keep you safe when you're traveling in Mexico are in place. Channel 5's Cecilia Gutierrez talked with the owner of a company that was once shut down because of violence. She brings us this update.
Travel to Mexico from the United States is becoming more normal for people in the valley. Some still worry about the crime across the border, especially with recent reports of the dangers there. One Valley tour agency owner says she doesn't see people traveling to the land of enchantment at the volume they used to. Cesar Morales will be going back to Mexico for the first time in 10 years later this week.
I will be going to Consumel, Mexico, but just on a cruise.
He says he stopped traveling to Mexico because of all the violence that sprung up.
But we heard the news and so on, so we stopped crying.
Morales says he chose a cruise because it's too dangerous to drive. Recent problems prove that.
If you drive, it's about 11 hours, but I don't drive anymore, so I fly down.
Tony James says the same thing. He often visits the interior of Mexico, but no longer drives due to violence in border cities. And Julie Nordstrom from Michigan is no exception.
I haven't been here for a couple of years, but even a couple of years ago it was a little scary. Years ago, my husband and I used to go a lot, in the bus trips in the interior, a lot.
The travel advisories, gun battles, and carjackings recently show history repeating itself. A little worry comes to Joe Linston's mind when years ago she had to stop travel to Mexico briefly.
It stopped for a while, which was a big blow to my business because the major part of my business was into Mexico.
This led her to take up new procedures with her tour agency when traveling to Mexico.
We do not travel at night, and we stick to the autopistas, the toll roads, and we do give the people advice to not go out at night, to stay in well-lighted areas. If they do go out at night across the street or around the block to a restaurant, to go, with a couple of other people, not to go out alone.
These procedures have kept her and her clients safe so far.
We're going to keep it that way.
Linston is afraid the drug-related type of violence we've seen recently may never get better.
As long as we continue to buy the drugs and there's a market in the United States, it'll continue to be moved this way.
She says this kind of violence hurts not only the tours and travel agencies, but people like we mentioned earlier, people who just want to enjoy the beauty of Mexico. Liston says her tours will keep going to Mexico as long as travel advisories say it's okay to travel. She says a change in Mexico can be felt with more military patrolling the streets. In the studio, Cecilia Gutierrez, Channel 5 News at 6.
The U.S. Department of State has two kinds of travel advisories. A travel alert is for short-term events they think people should know about before they travel to a country. An alert would cover strikes, health outbreaks, or evidence of an elevated risk of a terrorist attack. A travel warning is when the State Department wants you to consider very carefully whether you travel to that country. Travel effects remain in effect until the situation changes, and they may be in effect for years.